The Lance Armstrong doping case is a doping investigation that led to Lance Armstrong losing his 7 Tour de France titles and him eventually admitting to the doping. History of Lance Armstrong doping allegations. For much of his career, Lance Armstrong faced persistent allegations of doping, but until 2010 no official investigation was undertaken. 2010 to 2012 federal inquiry. U.S. federal prosecutors pursued allegations of doping by Armstrong from 2010 to 2012. The effort convened a grand jury to investigate doping charges, including taking statements under oath from Armstrong's former team members and other associates. Met with officials from France, Belgium, Spain, and Italy. And requested samples from the French anti-doping agency. The investigation was led by federal agent Jeff Nowitzki, who also investigated suspicions of steroid use by baseball players Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. Armstrong's former teammate Floyd Landis was a key witness in the criminal investigation, and according to the book Wheelman, Landis at one point wore a recording device and used a video camera disguised as a keychain, at the investigators' request in an attempt to gather evidence against a team owner in California. However, based on testimony from Landis, the prosecutors soon turned their attention to Armstrong and the doping that took place on the U.S. Postal Service team years earlier. As part of his campaign to clear his name from allegations of doping, Armstrong hired a Washington lobbying firm in 2010 to raise concerns about Nowitzki, according to a story in the Wall Street Journal. The firm worked for Mr. Armstrong for about 3 months, but, after arranging meetings on Capitol Hill, decided a full-scale lobbying effort wouldn't have worked. On February 2, 2012, U.S. federal prosecutors officially dropped their criminal investigation with no charges. The closing of the case by U.S. Attorney Andrew Copyright Barrett, Jr., was not without controversy, with the decision coming as a surprise to many. In October 2012, Vela News announced they had filed a Freedom of Information request regarding the 2-year federal Armstrong investigation and its dismissal. A section, USADA Investigation 2011-2012, in June 2012, the United States Anti-Doping Agency accused Armstrong of doping and trafficking of drugs, based on blood samples from 2009 and 2010, and testimonies from witnesses including former teammates. Armstrong, denying all doping use in a statement, was suspended from competition in cycling and triathlon. Armstrong was charged in a letter from USADA, along with 5 others including former team manager Joan Bruy-Neal. USADA said Armstrong used banned substances, including the blood booster EPO and steroids, as well as blood transfusions dating back to 1996. Activity leading to August decision. In July 2012, Armstrong filed a lawsuit in the Texas court requesting that the court bar USADA from pursuing its case or issuing any sanctions against him based on the claim that USADA rules violate athletes' constitutional rights to a fair trial, and that the agency does not have jurisdiction in his case. On July 10, 2012, after the initial lawsuit was dismissed for being overly lengthy, Armstrong filed a revised lawsuit. The same day, USADA announced lifetime bans against 3 of his former U.S. Postal Service cycling team associates, Luis Garcia del Moral, a team doctor, Michelle Ferrari, a consulting doctor, and Jose Pepe Marti, team trainer. U.S. District Judge Sam Sparks issued his ruling on August 20, 2012. He ruled in favor of USADA. However, he questioned the timing and motivation of USADA's investigation of Armstrong, and their apparent single-minded determination to force Armstrong to arbitrate, but also noting in direct conflict with UCI's equally evident desire not to proceed against him. Applying rational basis review to the Federal Arbitration Act, the Stevens Amateur Sports Act, and various governing documents of USADA, USOC, and U.S. Cycling, Sparks upheld USADA's authority to investigate Armstrong and initiate arbitration against him, and that Armstrong's right to due process could not be violated by USADA before any proceedings had actually occurred. 4 days after Judge Sparks's decision, on August 24, 2012, USADA stripped Armstrong of all competitive results from August 1, 1998 to present. USADA also issued a lifetime ban of Armstrong from any activity or competition for which it has jurisdiction. 3 days later, Armstrong, while publicly maintaining his innocence, decided to not officially challenge the USADA sanctions. In a statement, Armstrong said that the USADA had engaged in an unconstitutional witch hunt based on outlandish and heinous claims. He added that he would have been more than willing to fight the charges. What he described as USADA's one-sided and unfair arbitration process was not worth the toll on his foundation and his family. There comes a point in every man's life when he has to say, enough is enough. Armstrong said. For me, that time is now. The New York Times reported that, according to the WADA code, Armstrong's failure to contest such serious charges of anti-doping rules violations means that he forfeits all awards and prizes earned after August 1, 1998, including his tour titles, and is banned from any sport that uses the World Anti-Doping Code. UCI and IOC responses and reasoned decision. Cycling's ruling body, the Union Cycliste Internationale, requested on August 24, 2012, a reasoned decision from USADA, explaining why USADA thinks the UCI should strip Armstrong of his titles. On October 10, USADA published the details of its findings, in a 200-page report accompanied by over 1,000 pages of supporting evidence, including 26 testimonies of which 11 were statements from former teammates. Among those who testified were Betsy and Frankie Andrew, who repeated their testimony of the 2005 SCA promotions case, along with Floyd Landis and Tyler Hamilton, who repeated allegations made over the preceding years. Statements were also taken from former teammates including George Hincapie, Levi Leipheimer, and Michael Barry, all of whom confessed to doping during their careers as well as witnessing Armstrong using performance-enhancing drugs. Before its release, Armstrong's legal representative Tim Herman described the USADA reasoned decision as a one-sided hatchet job, a taxpayer-funded tabloid piece rehashing old, disproved, unreliable allegations based largely on axe grinders, serial perjurers, coerced testimony, sweetheart deals and threat-induced stories. On October 22, UCI announced that it would not appeal USADA's recommendations to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, meaning that it accepted USADA's recommended sanctions of banning Armstrong for life and stripping him of all his titles since August 1, 1998, including all his Tour de France titles. UCI's president Pat McQuaid remarked that Armstrong has no place in cycling. He deserves to be forgotten. A day after the UCI decision, Armstrong deleted references to his tour wins from his Twitter biography. On November 2, 2012, WADA confirmed that it would not appeal the USADA decision. On January 17, 2013, the International Olympic Committee announced that it had disqualified Armstrong from his results in the 2000 Summer Olympics, and had requested the return of his bronze medal from the time trial. Other reactions: the French Cycling Federation issued a statement on August 30, 2012, in support of the USADA decision, stating that Armstrong's refusal to contest USADA's accusations sounds like an admission of his guilt with regards to breaches of anti-doping regulation. The FFC also announced they do not want vacated positions to be reassigned and want reimbursement of Lance Armstrong's prizes obtained during the Tour de France and other competitions for an amount assessed at €2.95 million for the development of cycling among the youth and the prevention of doping. The president of the World Anti-Doping Agency, John Fay, stated that he believed Armstrong's decision not to contest the USADA's claims pursuant to its process indicated there was substance to those charges. Robert Boland, professor of sports management at New York University, believed that Armstrong's marketing potential was still strong after the USADA's decision, stating Armstrong's story has not been diminished. Here's a guy who essentially was at death's door with cancer and came back. That example still makes him very compelling. Some cyclists have supported Armstrong. Spain's Fernando Escartin, who placed third in the 1999 Tour de France, stated Lance Armstrong remains the 1999 Tour winner, second Zool and third, me. It's 13 years now since this all happened. It seems completely illogical and unreal. I don't want to even think about it. Armstrong resigned as director of the Lance Armstrong Foundation and was dropped by sponsors Radio Shack and Nike on October 17, 2012. Anheuser-Busch the same day said it would not renew its relationship with Armstrong at the end of 2012, but will continue to support the racer's cancer charity. Other sponsors who cut ties with Armstrong on that day were Trek Bicycle Corporation, Gyro, FRS Healthy Performance, Honey Stinger and 24 Hour Fitness. On October 19, bicycle parts manufacturer SRAM terminated the business relationship, while Oakley severed its ties on October 22. It was announced on October 30 that Armstrong was stripped of the key to Adelaide, which he had received as an honour for his 3 participations in the Tour Down Under. At the end of November 2012, Armstrong was elected as the top anti-sportsman of the year by Sports Illustrated. Armstrong chooses not to appeal to CAS, after UCI's formal notification to Armstrong about their decision to back the USADA decision on December 6, 2012. Armstrong had 21 days to appeal the decision to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. According to L'Equipe, CAS indicated that Armstrong had made no appeal by the evening of December 27, so the final deadline to appeal had passed. On December 14, 2012, Armstrong met secretly with USADA CEO Travis Tygart at the offices of the former Colorado Governor Bill Ritter. During this meeting, Armstrong asked USADA to reduce his lifetime ban from sports to just 1 year, in exchange for his cooperation with its ongoing investigations, which included its case against Brewy Neal. Tygart told Armstrong that under the anti-doping rules, USADA could bring his ban down to 8 years, and said that cooperating with USADA would help Armstrong to improve his public image. These secret discussions fell apart after Armstrong told Tygart that Armstrong held the keys his own redemption. Admission and apology. On January 4, 2013, the New York Times reported that Armstrong had told associates and anti-doping officials that he was considering publicly admitting having used banned performance-enhancing drugs and blood transfusions during his cycling career. Armstrong's attorney, Tim Herman, denied the report that he has decided to admit to doping charges and told the Associated Press, "When, and if, Lance has something to say, there won't be any secret about it." In an interview with Oprah Winfrey on January 13, 2013, Armstrong admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs throughout much of his career, including all 7 Tour de France wins. During the interview, Armstrong stated that his mythic, perfect story was one big lie, and attributed his denials to being a guy who expected to get whatever he wanted, and to control every outcome. The Associated Press and other media reported that Armstrong had made an apology to the Livestrong staff before his interview with Winfrey. Armstrong said that while doping, he neither felt that it was wrong nor felt bad about what he was doing. He further elaborated on doping throughout his cycling career. "My ruthless desire to win at all costs served me well on the bike, but the level it went to, for whatever reason, is a flaw. That desire, that attitude, that arrogance." In that interview, Armstrong also insisted he was clean during the 2 comeback years of 2009 and 2010, after UCI had implemented its biological passport program that included stricter whereabouts rules and the monitoring of blood profiles. References